Space Cadets, I'm Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly, and today is another day where I'm determined to peel back the layers of secrecy that government agencies tend to keep wrapped up, and at the same time, I pray I live long enough to report back my findings. Question for y'all, what's something you're positive is true no matter what the propaganda says? Let me know in the comments, and welcome to the top 5 classified NASA projects they pray you never find out about. Number 5, Operation Paperclip. Alrighty, goofy word time. YouTube land doesn't like a lot of the words that have to do with World War II, so bear with me while I talk about the Yahtzees and more. The Third Reich had built up a huge bank of scientists, engineers, and technicians over the course of the Second World War, and after the conflict ended, the US wanted to use some of their knowledge for their own gain. Thus came Operation Paperclip, a plan to rehouse hundreds, if not thousands, of former Yahtzee scientists in the US and put them to work on various projects. One such project was, you guessed it, the early days of NASA. Conducted by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, it was largely carried out by special agents of the US Army's Counterintelligence Corps. One of the people brought over in Operation Paperclip was Kurt DeBoos, a former V-2 rocket scientist. Now he was transferred over to NASA in 1960, and in just 2 years was named the first ever director of its Launch Operations Center. From there he oversaw hundreds of rocket launches and played a pivotal role in preparations for the moon landings. At the same time, President Truman spent about 16 months before making his decision to approve Operation Paperclip. Several of the Paperclip scientists were later investigated because of their links with the Yahtzee party during the war. Only one Paperclip scientist, George Rickey, was formally tried for any crime, and no Paperclip scientist was found guilty of any crime anyways, in the States or in Germany. Rickey was returned to Germany in 1947 to stand at the Dora trial where he was acquitted. In 1951, weeks after his US arrival, Walter Schreiber was linked by the Boston Globe to human experiments conducted by Kurt Blohm at Ravensbrück, and just to be safe, he immigrated to Argentina with the aid of the US military. In 1984, Arthur Rudolph, under perceived threat of prosecution relating to his connection as operations director for V-2 missile production to the use of forced labor from Mittelbau Dora at Mittelwerk, renounced his US citizenship and moved to West Germany, which, what do you know, granted him citizenship. For 50 years from 1963 to 2013, the Strughold Award, which was named after Hubertus Strughold, the father of space medicine, for his central role in developing innovations like the spacesuit and space life support systems, was the most prestigious award from the Space Medicine Association, a member organization of the Aerospace Medical Association. But on October 1st of 2013, in the aftermath of a Wall Street Journal article published on December 1st of 2012, which highlighted his connection to human experiments during the Second World War, the Space Medicine Association's Executive Committee announced that the Space Medicine Association Strughold Award had been retired. Operation Paperclip remains a black mark against America's post-war activities, and NASA was unfortunately a part of it. It's an icky secret, one that doesn't get any easier to hear. Number 4, parallel universes. So back in 2020, in a news release fitting for the Year of Chaos, a group of NASA scientists working on an experiment in Antarctica detected evidence of a parallel universe where the rules of physics are the opposite of our own. The concept of a parallel universe has been around since the early 1960s, with my personal favorite version being in the Buffy universe. But now a cosmic ray detection experiment has found particles that could be from a parallel realm that was also born in the Big Bang, which is the theory about how our world was created. The experts used a giant balloon to carry NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA for short, high above Antarctica, where the frigid, dry air provided the perfect environment with little to no radio noise to distort its findings. Low-energy subatomic neutrinos with a mass close to zero can pass completely through Earth, but higher energy objects are stopped by the solid matter of our planet, according to the experts. So I'm trusting them on that since, I'm not exactly an engineer. Long story short, it means that the high-energy particles can only be detected coming down from space, but the team's ANITA detected heavier particles, so-called tow neutrinos, which come up out of the Earth. The finding implies that these particles are actually traveling backwards in time, suggesting evidence of a parallel universe. Principal ANITA investigator Peter Gorham, an experimental particle physicist at the University of Hawaii, suggested that the only way the tow neutrino could behave that way is if it changed into a different type of particle before passing through the Earth and then back again. So Gorham, lead author on a Cornell University paper describing the odd phenomenon, noted that he and his fellow researchers had seen several of these impossible events, which some folks were obviously skeptical about. The simplest explanation for the phenomenon is that at the moment of the Big Bang, around 13.8 billion years ago, 2 universes were formed, ours, and one that, from our perspective, is running in reverse with time going backwards. Granted, if there are any inhabitants of a possible parallel universe, they'd consider us the backwards ones. Now, NASA has since tried their best to discredit and hide these claims, but if you look, they do exist exist out there. Number 3. UFO Legacy Programs. Our witness to this whole mess is David Charles Grush, who, if you don't know that name, just so happens to be a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO for short, where he served as a representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 till 2021. From late 2021 till July of 2022, he was the NGA co-lead for UAP analysis and is representative to the task force led by the Department of the Navy under the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. At the NGO, David served as a Senior Intelligence Capabilities Integration Officer, cleared at the top secret compartmented information level. From 2016 till 2021, he served with the National Reconnaissance Office as a Senior Intelligence Officer and led the production of the NRO Director's Daily Briefing. Now, he was a GS-15 civilian, the military equivalent of a colonel, and has numerous awards and decorations for his participation in covert and clandestine operations to advance American security. David said the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles, not from this world, have been made for decades through the present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. He said that the craft recovery operations are ongoing at various levels of activity and that individuals on these UAP programs have approached him in his official capacity and disclosed their concerns regarding a multitude of wrongdoings, such as illegal contracting against the federal acquisition regulations and other criminality and the suppression of information across a qualified industrial base in academia. Associates who vouched for David said his information was highly sensitive, providing evidence that materials from objects of non-human origin are in the possession of highly secret black programs. Once again, non-human origin. Although locations, program names, and other specific data remain classified, the Inspector General and Intelligence Committee staff were provided with these details. Analysis has determined that the objects retrieved are of non-human origin based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. The investigation was centered on extensive interviews with high-level intelligence officials, some of whom are directly involved with the program, and they corroborated his information. David is certain that the information has been illegally withheld from Congress to intentionally thwart legitimate congressional oversight of the UAP program. He's also filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures. In his statement, David claimed that UFO legacy programs have long been concealed within multiple agencies nesting UAP activities in conventional secret access programs without appropriate reporting to various oversight authorities. According to the unclassified complaint, in July of 2021, he had confidentially provided classified information to the Department of Defense Inspector General concerning the withholding of UAP-related information from Congress. Christopher Mellon, who spent nearly 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community and served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, has worked with Congress for years on unidentified aerial phenomena. He has mentioned that a number of well-placed current and former officials have shared detailed information with them, including the location where his craft was abandoned and recovered. He claims the reason more folks haven't come forward is due to a lack of trust in the leadership of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office established by Congress. The assumption that the United States alone has bullied the other nations into maintaining the secrecy for nearly a century continues to prevail as the primary consensus amongst the public at large, myself included. What do you know? Like a project that's considered by multiple government agencies. Not just NASA. Number 2, a secret mission in Africa. So at the time, a NASA official confirmed that one of their agency's aircrafts had been spotted on an American military airstrip in Eastern Africa, but like a series of US military officials I just mentioned, declined to say what the space agency's high-tech bird was doing there. Like, he gave the most legalese answer ever. Enjoy chuckling at this statement. I really can't give you any of the details. You know, the airplane was there, you can see it in the picture, but I really can't tell you what it was for. A big, from me. Anybody else? The broad-winged white plane belonging to the agency was photographed by the satellite company Digital Globe, sitting next to some tilt-rotor aircraft at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti. A NASA website that tracks the agency's 3 WB-57s shows that, yep, one of its planes, number 926 to be specific, was on a foreign deployment from July until November of that specific year. A NASA handbook for the WB-57 posted online lists 14 international deployment sites for the aircraft around the world, but the American base near Djibouti isn't one of them. The Pentagon declined to answer any questions about the NASA aircraft, and a spokesperson for the Air Force Space Command, which has a closer relationship with NASA, said they wouldn't have operational knowledge of a mission on that continent. AFRICOM, the US military's Africa Command, would only say that aircrafts from a variety of agencies and nations perform diverse missions from Camp Lemonnier in support of US and allied military peace and security operations in the region, which spans East Africa and the Mideast. A NASA spokesperson says that their WB-57 aircraft does a lot of work with a variety of different customers from the government and also the Defense Department, which, totally not suspicious at all. According to NASA's website, the WB-57s have been flying research missions since the early 1970s and continue to be an asset to the scientific community with professional, reliable, customer-oriented service designed to meet all scientific objectives. Blah blah blah. A government website devoted to the converted old bombers describes a mission in Costa Rica to explore the tropical upper troposphere and lower stratosphere, and another to collect cosmic dust from comets and asteroids in the Earth's upper atmosphere, among many others. A variation of the aircraft was used to gather air samples from above-ground nuclear tests conducted by other countries. But, only other countries. The military may be interested in more than just scientific objectives, since the plane can fly nearly as high as the famed U-2 spy plane and carry more weight, including an array of high-tech imagery and communications equipment. One previous mission was described by Arati Prabhakar, the head of the military's fringe tech specialists at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to the House Subcommittee on Intelligence as a kind of mass, three-dimensional terrain mapping. She said that a WB-57 was deployed to Afghanistan for a few months, beginning in late 2010, and collected over 70,000 square kilometers of terrain data, so like information on about 10% of the country. Given 90 days, this expert said she was confident the system could have mapped half the country. A civilian who worked with the WB-57 program in Afghanistan, and who asked to not be identified due to the sensitive nature of some of this plane's missions, told a news outlet that the plane is highly customizable, using sometimes one-off configurations depending on the objectives of the project. And for now, the military isn't saying anymore. Whatever the mission was, it appears to be over, since according to NASA, all 3 WB-57s are now back in the US with their status listed as inactive. Let me know in the comments what y'all's theories are on why the plane was mysteriously in Africa. My guess, another Area 51 or Roswell incident that they want to keep covered up. And number 1, a plane cover-up. Aurora is a mid-1980s American reconnaissance aircraft that the US government has consistently denied was ever built. It all started in 1985 when the Los Angeles Times and later Aviation Week and Space Technology magazine broke the news that the term Aurora had been inadvertently included in the 1985 US budget as an allocation of $455 million for black aircraft production in FY 1987. According to Aviation Week, Project Aurora referred to a group of exotic aircrafts, not to one particular airframe. Funding of the project allegedly reached $2.3 billion in fiscal 1987, according to a 1986 procurement document obtained by Aviation Week. In the 1994 book Skunk Works, Ben Rich, the former head of Lockheed's Skunk Works division, wrote that the Aurora was the budgetary codename for the stealth plane that resulted in the B-2 Spirit. By the late 1980s, many aerospace industry observers believed that the US had the technological capability to build a hypersonic speed replacement for the aging Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. Detailed examinations of the US defense budget claimed to have found money missing or channeled into, dark projects. By the mid-1990s, reports surfaced of sightings of unidentified aircrafts flying over California and the United Kingdom involving odd-shaped contrails, sonic booms, and related phenomena that suggested that the US had developed such an aircraft. The sonic booms were characteristic of a smaller vehicle, rather than that of the 37-meter-long Space Shuttle orbiter. In addition, neither the shuttle nor NASA's single SR-71B was operating on the days the booms had been registered. Former NASA sonic boom expert Dom Maglieri studied the 15-year-old sonic boom data from the California Institute of Technology and has deemed that the data showed that the booms did not look like those from aircrafts that had traveled through the atmosphere many miles away at the Los Angeles International Airport. Rather, they appeared to be booms from a high-altitude aircraft directly above the ground, moving at high speeds. In 2006, aviation writer Bill Sweetman put together 20 years of examining budget holes, unexplained sonic booms, as well as the Gibson sighting, and concluded that the evidence establishes the program's initial existence, and found a $9 billion black hole that seems a perfect fit for a project like Aurora. Go NASA for almost effectively covering this one up. Almost. And that brings us to the end of our time, and my goodness, was today ever informative. If you enjoyed my research, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more classified deep dives from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.